The American coffee industry generates over $121 billion annually. Starbucks alone operates more than 16,000 stores across the United States and reported revenue that dwarfs the GDP of some small nations. Keurig Dr. Pepper, the company behind the K-Cup pod system, controls 80% of the coffee pod market and was fined $1.5 million by the Securities and Exchange Commission in 2024 for making misleading statements about the recyclability of its products. That was on top of a separate $10 million class action settlement for the same deception. Folgers, Maxwell House, Nescafé, and a handful of other mega brands controlled by conglomerates like Smucker, Kraft Heinz, Nestle, and JAB Holdings dominate your grocery store shelf. What if I told you that the recyclable label on your coffee pod was a lie that cost the company $11.5 million in fines and settlements? That the 100% ethical sourcing claim on your favorite coffee brand conceals documented forced labor, child labor, and slavery-like conditions on supplier farms? That mountain grown means nothing because virtually all coffee is grown on mountains? And that the Swedish tradition on your Gevalia box is owned by the same conglomerate that owns Dr. Pepper? Today, we are examining 16 coffee brands. This is not about whether coffee is good or bad for you. This is about an industry that spends hundreds of millions of dollars convincing you that the beans in your cup are special, ethical, sustainable, and premium, when the fine print, the lawsuits, and the supply chain audits tell a completely different story. The global coffee market is projected to reach $186 billion by 2033. Over 100 billion coffee pods have been sold since the late 1990s. 40% of American households now use single-serve coffee machines. The marketing machine behind your morning cup is one of the most sophisticated in the consumer products industry. And it works because coffee is emotional. Coffee is ritual. Coffee is identity. You do not just drink coffee. You are a Starbucks person, or a Dunkin person, or a craft coffee person. Every brand on the shelf has been engineered to match a self-image. The marketing does not sell caffeine. It sells who you think you are when you hold that cup. That is why the gap between the promise and the product is so profitable. You are not comparing the coffee. You are comparing the feeling. Let us compare the promise to the product. Claim by claim. Lie by lie. Number 16. 8 o'clock coffee. The claim, the original gourmet. 8 o'clock coffee bills itself as the original gourmet coffee, a phrase designed to evoke artisanal quality and pioneering spirit. The brand was founded in 1859 and is now owned by Tata Global Beverages, an Indian multinational conglomerate. The word gourmet has no regulated definition in the coffee industry. Any coffee at any price point can call itself gourmet. 8 o'clock sells for roughly $6 to $8 per bag, competing with budget brands while using premium language. The original gourmet claim implies that 8 o'clock invented premium coffee. It did not. The claim is unverifiable marketing language printed on budget packaging. The gap between the word gourmet and the price tag tells you everything about whose definition of gourmet the brand is using. Number 15. McCafé. The claim reads, made from 100% Arabica beans. McDonald's McCafé line positions its coffee as a premium alternative to fast food coffee stereotypes. The 100% Arabica beans claim appears on every McCafé product. Here is what that claim actually means. Arabica is one of two main species of coffee, the other being Robusta. Arabica is generally considered superior in flavor, but 100% Arabica is a baseline quality indicator, not a premium distinction. The vast majority of branded coffee sold in the United States is 100% Arabica. Folgers, Maxwell House, Dunkin, Starbucks, and virtually every brand on the grocery shelf make the same claim. Advertising 100% Arabica is like advertising that your bread is made with 100% wheat. It states the standard as if it were an achievement. McCafé uses this claim to justify premium positioning for what is still McDonald's coffee, served through a drive-through window. Number 14. Gevalia. The claim, a rich Swedish coffee tradition. Gevalia markets itself with imagery of Swedish heritage, European sophistication, and old-world craftsmanship. The packaging features Swedish flags and references to the brand's founding in Gävle, Sweden in 1853, and phrases like rich Swedish coffee tradition. Gevalia is owned by JAB Holding Company through its subsidiary Jacobs Douwe Egberts. JAB Holdings is a Luxembourg-based investment firm that also owns Keurig Dr Pepper, Peet's Coffee, Caribou Coffee, Panera Bread, and Krispy Kreme. Your Swedish coffee tradition is produced by the same conglomerate that makes your donuts and your Dr Pepper. The Swedish heritage on the label is real in the sense that the brand originated in Sweden, but the coffee you are drinking today is produced within a global supply chain managed by a Luxembourg investment firm. The Scandinavian imagery sells the idea of meticulous European craftsmanship. The corporate reality is multinational conglomerate efficiency. Number 13. Café Bustelo. Claim: El Café del Futuro desde 1928. The coffee of the future since 1928. Café Bustelo has built its brand identity around Latin heritage, vibrant yellow packaging, and an authentic Cuban coffee experience. The brand was founded by Gregorio Bustelo, a Spanish immigrant, in East Harlem, New York, in 1928. Today, Café Bustelo is owned by the J.M. Smucker Company, the same corporation that owns Folgers, Jif peanut butter, and Uncrustables frozen sandwiches. The heritage on the label is real, and the corporate ownership is completely disconnected from that heritage. Smucker acquired the brand through its purchase of Big Heart Pet brands and subsequent reorganization of the Roland Coffee Roasters portfolio. The Latin identity that drives Café Bustelo's marketing was created by an immigrant entrepreneur, and it is now managed by a Midwestern corporation headquartered in Orrville, Ohio. The authenticity on the package is a trademark, not a family recipe. Number 12. Lavazza. The claim is Italy's favorite coffee. Lavazza positions itself as authentic Italian espresso culture in a grocery store bag. The brand has been family-owned since 1895, which is a genuine distinction in an industry dominated by conglomerates. But Lavazza has faced its own marketing controversies. In Canada, the company was called out alongside Keurig for making misleading claims about the recyclability of its coffee pods. The broader issue with Lavazza's marketing is the implication that Italian origin equals superior quality. Italy does not grow coffee. Italian coffee brands import beans from the same global commodity markets as everyone else. The Italian tradition is in the roasting and blending, not in the sourcing. When you pay a premium for Italian coffee, you are paying for a roasting philosophy and brand heritage, not for Italian-grown beans that do not exist. Number 11. Green Mountain Coffee Roasters. The claim was responsibly sourced, sustainability in every cup. Green Mountain Coffee, now operating as Keurig Dr Pepper after a series of mergers, built its reputation on socially responsible sourcing and environmental sustainability. Then, it invented the K-Cup. Over 100 billion single-use coffee pods have been sold since the late 1990s. Keurig Dr Pepper controls 80% of the pod market. The company claimed its pods were recyclable. They were not recyclable in most communities. The SEC fined Keurig $1.5 million in 2024 for making misleading statements in its annual reports about pod recyclability. A separate class action settlement cost the company $10 million. In Canada, Keurig paid an additional $3 million in penalties for similar deceptive claims. The company that branded itself around sustainability created one of the largest sources of single-use plastic waste in the American food system. The green in Green Mountain referred to the mountains of Vermont, not to environmental practices. But the marketing let consumers make that association for decades, while billions of non-recyclable pods went to landfills. The company also faces antitrust litigation with direct purchaser plaintiffs claiming more than $3 billion in class-wide monetary damages related to anti-competitive practices in the single-serve coffee market. The brand that started as a small Vermont roaster committed to social responsibility became the company that dominates the pod market through alleged anti-competitive practices and proven greenwashing. The trajectory from craft to conglomerate is the coffee industry's most instructive cautionary tale. Number 10. Dunkin. The claim is, America runs on Dunkin. Dunkin dropped the donuts from its name in 2019 to rebrand itself as a beverage-first company. The slogan, "America runs on Dunkin'," positions the chain as essential to American daily life. Dunkin markets its coffee as approachable, affordable, and authentic. What Dunkin does not prominently market is the sugar content of its most popular beverages. A Dunkin frozen coffee with flavor swirl can contain over 100 grams of sugar in a single serving. That is more than double the American Heart Association's recommended daily sugar limit. The iced and flavored drinks that drive Dunkin's revenue are marketed as coffee. They are closer to desserts. The phrase "America runs on Dunkin" implies that the brand fuels productivity and energy. The sugar content of many of its signature beverages tells a different nutritional story. The coffee is real. The marketing positioning as a daily essential obscures that many customers are drinking coffee-flavored milkshakes. Dunkin has also expanded aggressively into the grocery aisle through a licensing agreement with JM Smucker, meaning that Dunkin-branded K-Cups and ground coffee sold in stores are manufactured by the same company that makes Folgers. Smucker produces those grocery products. The Dunkin brand on your grocery shelf and the Dunkin drive-thru create an impression of a unified premium product. The grocery product is produced by a different company entirely. The brand is the bridge between two unrelated production systems. You trust the drive-thru coffee. That trust is transferred to a grocery product you have never tasted from the same cup. Number 9. Death Wish Coffee. The claim is the world's strongest coffee. Death Wish Coffee markets itself with packaging that features skulls and crossbones, and aggressive branding aimed at consumers who want maximum caffeine. The world's strongest claim is a marketing superlative, not a regulated certification. Multiple brands compete for the strongest title, and measurement methodology varies. Death Wish uses a specific blend of Robusta and Arabica beans to achieve higher caffeine content, but the implication of a verified, objective ranking does not exist. No international body certifies which coffee is strongest. The claim is a marketing position, not a laboratory result. The aggressive branding creates a perception of extreme potency that generates social media sharing and word of mouth. The skull and crossbones is not a warning, it is a logo designed to go viral. Death Wish is not misleading consumers about a health benefit or ethical practice, which distinguishes it from more harmful marketing deceptions. But it represents an important category of coffee marketing where the brand identity, the packaging, and the social media shareability are the actual product being sold. The coffee is the delivery mechanism for the brand experience. Buy a bag, photograph it on your counter, post it, and tell everyone you drink the world's strongest. The marketing works because the customer becomes the advertiser. Number 8. Nespresso. The claim is, what else? Nespresso, owned by Nestlé, has positioned itself as the luxury end of the single-serve coffee market. George Clooney's long-running endorsement campaign, with the tagline, "What else?" created an association between Nespresso and Hollywood sophistication. Nespresso received B Corporation certification, a distinction meant for companies meeting high social and environmental standards. The certification was immediately controversial. Fair World Project, a nonprofit that monitors ethical trade claims, published an investigation questioning how a company known for human rights concerns in its supply chain and built on disposable single-serve packaging could qualify as a B Corp. Nespresso's aluminum capsules are marketed as recyclable through the company's own collection program. But the recycling rate depends entirely on consumer participation in a proprietary return system. The capsules are not recyclable through standard municipal recycling in most communities. Recycling, in this case, relies on customers returning capsules to the company. George Clooney was reportedly paid tens of millions of dollars for his endorsement. The celebrity partnership is a significant component of the product's cost structure. When you buy Nespresso, a meaningful portion of the premium you pay is funding the next George Clooney commercial, not improving the coffee or its supply chain. Nespresso capsules typically cost 50 to 80 cents each, which translates to roughly $40 to $70 per pound of coffee. For comparison, exceptional specialty coffee from named farms typically costs $15 to $25 per pound. The Nespresso consumer is paying luxury prices not for luxury coffee, but for the convenience of a pod, the design of a machine, and the reflected glamour of a Hollywood endorsement. The "what else" tagline is more honest than Nespresso might intend. What else are you paying for? The answer is everything except the coffee. Number 7. Folgers. The claim was the best part of waking up, mountain grown. Folgers is America's best-selling retail coffee brand, owned by the Smucker company. The brand's iconic jingle, "The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup," is one of the most recognized jingles in advertising history. For decades, Folgers also marketed its coffee as mountain grown, implying a special sourcing distinction. Here is the problem. Nearly all coffee in the world is grown at elevation. Coffee plants thrive at altitudes between 3,000 and 6,000 feet. Mountain grown is not a special attribute. It describes how coffee agriculture works. Saying coffee is mountain grown is like saying fish is ocean caught. It describes the baseline, not the exception. The phrase was eventually phased out after it became widely recognized as meaningless. But for years, it was Folgers' primary quality claim, printed on every can and repeated in every commercial. The marketing department created a premium perception out of a geographic inevitability. Mountain grown sounded like it meant something. It meant everything and nothing at the same time. Folgers today remains the #1 selling retail coffee brand in America, despite offering what coffee professionals consistently rate as among the lowest quality options on the shelf. The brand's continued dominance is proof that in coffee, as in every consumer product category, marketing muscle beats product quality. The Smucker company, which also owns Café Bustelo and the Dunkin grocery brand, spent heavily on advertising to maintain Folgers' position. The best part of waking up jingle alone has generated more brand recognition than most premium coffee companies achieve with their entire marketing budgets. The jingle is memorable. The coffee is forgettable. That is the point. The marketing is the product. Number 6. Maxwell House. The claim is good to the last drop. Maxwell House, owned by Kraft Heinz, has used the slogan "good to the last drop" since 1915. The slogan has been attributed to Theodore Roosevelt, though historians dispute whether he actually said it. That attribution itself is a marketing construction that has been repeated so often it functions as fact. Good to the last drop is classic puffery, a legal term for advertising claims that are so vague and subjective that no reasonable consumer would take them as factual assertions. Puffery is legally protected because it communicates nothing measurable. Maxwell House is not promising a specific quality standard. It is promising a feeling. The brand competes directly with Folgers in the budget coffee segment, and both brands source from the same global commodity markets. The difference between Folgers and Maxwell House is not in the beans, the roasting, or the quality. The difference is in the jingle. One is the best part of waking up. The other is good to the last drop. Both statements communicate exactly the same amount of verifiable information. 0. Kraft Heinz has been divesting non-core brands and restructuring operations, reflecting the broader reality that commodity coffee brands face a declining future as consumers who care about quality trade up and consumers who care about price trade down to store brands. The middle, where Maxwell House lives, is being squeezed from both ends. The good to the last drop promise is a century-old slogan holding together a brand whose relevance is being slowly drained by changing consumer preferences and the inability to compete on either quality or price. Number 5. Peet's Coffee. The claim is the original craft coffee. Peet's markets itself as the grandfather of the specialty coffee movement that inspired Starbucks. Alfred Peet did indeed pioneer the dark roast specialty coffee style in Berkeley, California in 1966. The heritage is real. What has changed is the ownership. Peet's is now owned by JAB Holdings Company, the same Luxembourg-based investment firm that owns Keurig Dr Pepper, Gevalia, Caribou Coffee, Panera Bread, and Krispy Kreme. JAB Holdings has built a coffee and food service empire through aggressive acquisition. Peet's, once a single store in Berkeley run by a Dutch immigrant with strong opinions about roasting, is now a portfolio brand within a multinational conglomerate valued in the tens of billions. The craft label implies independence, small batch production, and artisanal care. The corporate reality is global supply chain management by a Luxembourg-based holding company. The original craft coffee is now original in name only. Number 4. Starbucks, K-Cups, and grocery products. The claim is committed to 100% ethical coffee sourcing. Starbucks prints, committed to 100% ethical coffee sourcing on every bag of grocery coffee and every box of K-Cups sold in American stores. In January 2024, the National Consumers League sued Starbucks in Washington, D.C., alleging that this claim is false and deceptive advertising. The lawsuit documented that farms certified under Starbucks' own CAFE practices program had engaged in child labor, forced labor, sexual harassment and assault, and other human rights abuses. At the Mace's farm in Brazil, a Starbucks certified supplier, law enforcement in 2022 rescued 17 workers, including a 15-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 17-year-old from slavery-like conditions. Workers were forced to lift coffee sacks weighing over 130 pounds in outdoor conditions without protective equipment. At the James Finley plantation in Kenya, a Starbucks tea source, BBC undercover reporters exposed rampant sexual abuse, including supervisors forcing women into sex in exchange for work. Workers were reportedly paid the equivalent of $30 per week. In January 2026, a second class action was filed alleging that Starbucks' 100% Arabica coffee claim is misleading because independent testing detected volatile organic compounds, including benzene, toluene, and methylene chloride, in decaffeinated coffee products. A separate lawsuit filed on behalf of 8 Brazilian farm workers alleged they were trafficked and forced to work in slavery-like conditions on farms within the Starbucks supply chain. Every bag of Starbucks coffee on every grocery shelf in America says 100% ethical. The lawsuits say otherwise. Number 3. Keurig K-Cups. The claim was 100% recyclable. Keurig's K-Cup pods were labeled as recyclable. The company's website stated that since the end of 2020, 100% of K-Cup pods have been recyclable. The Securities and Exchange Commission investigated and found this claim was misleading. 2 of the country's largest recycling companies, operating more than 1/3 of recycling facilities in America, had expressed significant negative feedback about the product's recyclability and stated they did not intend to accept pods for recycling. Keurig knew this and continued making the claim. The Securities and Exchange Commission fined Keurig $1.5 million in September 2024. This was on top of a separate $10 million class action settlement reached in 2022 over identical recyclability claims. In Canada, Keurig paid an additional $3 million in penalties. The company was ordered to add the disclaimer, "Check locally, not recycled," in many communities to all packaging. 100 billion pods have been sold since the late 1990s. 40% of American households use single-serve coffee machines. For years, the company that dominates 80% of the pod market told those households that the pods were recyclable, when the recycling industry itself said they were not. The recyclable label was not a fact. It was a marketing strategy that cost the company $13.5 million in combined fines and settlements across 3 separate enforcement actions. And the pods are still going to landfills. Number 2. Starbucks stores. The claim is the 3rd place. Starbucks built its empire on the concept of being the 3rd place, a comfortable space between home and work where people could relax, connect, and enjoy premium coffee. The company operates over 16,000 stores in America. In fiscal year 2024, Starbucks reported a 6% dip in same-store sales. The company has removed seating in many locations to optimize for mobile order pickup. That directly contradicts the 3rd-place concept that built the brand. Mobile orders surged from 17% to 26% of sales within a single year during the early 20s. The Back to Starbucks campaign explicitly acknowledged the need to restore the in-store experience, a tacit admission that optimization for speed had hollowed out the brand promise. But the deeper marketing issue is the premium pricing structure. Starbucks charges significantly more than competitors for coffee that, in blind taste tests, does not consistently outperform cheaper alternatives. The premium pays for the experience, the brand association, and the customization culture that turns a $4 coffee into a $7 personalized beverage through syrups, modifications, and seasonal limited-time offerings. A significant percentage of Starbucks' most popular drinks contain sugar levels comparable to desserts. The pumpkin spice latte, the brand's most iconic seasonal offering, contains 50 grams of sugar in a grande size. You are not buying coffee at Starbucks. You are buying a brand experience, a customization ritual, and a sugar delivery system marketed as a premium daily essential. The genius of Starbucks marketing is that it made coffee a lifestyle accessory. The cup with the green siren logo is a social signal. Holding it communicates something about who you are and what you value. That signal has been worth billions in free advertising as customers carry branded cups through offices, airports, and social media feeds. The product inside the cup is secondary to the brand on the outside. Starbucks did not become a $74 billion industry by making better coffee than everyone else. It became a $74 billion industry by making the CUP matter more than the coffee. Number 1. The Coffee Advertising Industrial Complex. The American coffee industry does not have a quality problem. It has an honesty problem. The industry is controlled by a handful of conglomerates that own dozens of brands designed to look independent. JAB Holdings, a Luxembourg investment firm, owns Keurig Dr. Pepper, Peet's Coffee, Caribou Coffee, Gevalia, Panera Bread, and Krispy Kreme. When you choose between Peet's and Gevalia on the grocery shelf, you are choosing between two brands owned by the same company. J.M. Smucker owns Folgers, Café Bustelo, and the Dunkin grocery line. Nestle owns Nespresso, Nescafé, Starbucks grocery products through a licensing deal, and Blue Bottle Coffee. The diversity on the shelf is an illusion. 4 or 5 companies control the vast majority of the coffee Americans drink. Now consider the words these companies use. Mountain Grown describes virtually all coffee. 100% Arabica is the industry standard. Premium has no regulated definition. Artisan, craft, and small batch are unregulated terms. Gourmet means nothing. Single origin can mean an entire country. Sustainably sourced, responsibly sourced, and ethically sourced have no universal standards and, as the Starbucks lawsuits demonstrate, may conceal documented human rights abuses. And recyclable, the environmental claim that consumers increasingly base purchasing decisions on, was proven false in 3 separate legal proceedings against the industry's dominant pod manufacturer. The coffee industry has mastered a specific deception. It sells commodity as craft, it sells conglomerate as independent, it sells standard as premium, it sells geography as quality, and it sells ethical as a label rather than a practice. What is the alternative? Roasters that let transparency do the work. Counterculture. Coffee in Durham, North Carolina publishes an annual transparency report with exact farm names, prices paid to farmers, and quality scores. They do not hide behind certification labels. They show the receipts. Intelligentsia Coffee in Chicago was a pioneer of direct trade, building long-term relationships with specific farms and publishing detailed sourcing information for every coffee they sell. Stumptown Coffee Roasters in Portland, Oregon emphasizes direct trade with transparent pricing and published sourcing stories for each origin. Equator Coffees in San Rafael, California is a certified B Corporation that publishes sustainability metrics and farmer payment data, proving that ethical sourcing claims can be verified, not just asserted. Blue Bottle Coffee was founded on transparency and quality, though its acquisition by Nestlé in 2017 raised questions about whether independence survives corporate ownership. It remains a useful case study in what happens when craft meets conglomerate. These roasters prove that the coffee industry can operate with published prices paid to farmers, named farms instead of vague origins, verified environmental practices instead of recyclable labels that are not recyclable, and honest language instead of meaningless buzzwords. The premium you pay at these companies goes to the coffee. The premium you pay at conglomerate brands goes to the commercial. Here are the red flags. If the label says 100% Arabica, that is the baseline, not a distinction. If the brand claims mountain grown, that describes virtually all coffee on earth. If the packaging says recyclable, check whether your local facility actually accepts it. If the brand claims ethical sourcing, ask for published farm names and prices paid. If the parent company also owns a donut chain and a soda brand, the coffee is a portfolio product, not a passion project. And if the celebrity endorsement cost more than the farmer received for the beans, the marketing budget is larger than the ethical commitment. Let me be direct about what this investigation has revealed. 16 brands examined, billions in conglomerate revenue dissected. A pattern of greenwashing, ethical whitewashing, commodity masquerading as craft, and conglomerate masquerading as independent is documented across an industry that touches more than 60% of American adults every single day. The numbers tell the story. Keurig was fined by the SEC and paid over $13 million across 3 separate proceedings for lying about recyclability, while 100 billion pods went to landfills. Starbucks prints 100% ethical on every bag, while facing multiple lawsuits documenting forced labor, child labor, sexual abuse, and slavery-like conditions in its supply chain, and a 2026 lawsuit alleging volatile organic compounds in its decaf products. Folgers sold mountain grown as a premium attribute when it describes how all coffee is grown. Maxwell House turned a disputed Theodore Roosevelt quote into a century of marketing. Peet and Gevalia sit in the same Luxembourg holding company portfolio alongside Keurig, Caribou, Panera, and Krispy Kreme. Café Bustelo's Latin heritage is managed from a corporate office in Ohio. Nespresso pays George Clooney more for a single endorsement campaign than many coffee farmers earn in a lifetime. And the entire industry resists transparent labeling while charging premium prices for commodity coffee wrapped in meaningless terminology. The economics are revealing. A coffee farmer in Brazil earns roughly $1 to $2 per pound of green coffee. After roasting, packaging, marketing, and distribution, that same coffee sells for $8 to $15 per pound at retail. For Nespresso capsules, the equivalent per pound cost to the consumer exceeds $50. The marketing margin, the gap between what the farmer receives and what you pay, is where the advertising lives. The larger that gap, the more advertising is needed to justify it. And the more advertising is needed, the more creative the claims must become. Mountain grown, 100% Arabica, ethically sourced, recyclable. Each claim fills the gap between what the coffee costs and what the commercial tells you it is worth. The commercial you watched cost more than the beans in your cup. The recyclable label was a lie that cost $13 million in fines. The ethical sourcing claim conceals documented human rights abuses. And the craft heritage brand is owned by the same company as your soda and your donuts. You did not buy coffee, you bought a commercial. Now you know what is real.